Hi, nice to meet you, everyone. Hi, I relax.
You're great. You can go. You can go.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to begin with one simple idea. Cities are not only places of concentrate and consumption. They can also become starting point for regeneration. No. We see cities as living systems where people, society, the economy, culture, and nature are deeply interconnected. By regenerating these relationships, cities can create ecological, social, cultural, and economic value. This is the idea behind what we call regenerative city Tokyo. For a long time, cities have been designed to concentrate people, capital, infrastructure, and consumption, creating economic growth and convenience. But today, cities face new challenges. Climate risk is increasing, biodiversity is declining, and supply chains are becoming more fragile. At the same time, many people feel disconnected from nature, from local culture, and even from one another. In this context, cities must evolve. They should not remain only places of concentration and consumption. They can become starting points for regeneration. Today, I would like to share how we are beginning to test this idea in practice in Tokyo. Tokyo Tatemono, founded in 1896, develops and operates multiple assets in Tokyo. This allows us not only to speak about regeneration, but to test it in practice in real urban conditions. We believe this can offer practice insight for cities facing similar challenges. For us, long-term urban value means not only asset value, but also ecological, social, cultural, and business value. We believe the role of developer is evolving from building individual assets to designing systems that sustain diverse form of value over time. Let me share two examples. Our first example is Otemachi Forest. The purpose is not only to restore ecology, it is also designed to improve human well-being and reconnect the city with regional value. We create a 3,600 square meter urban forest in central Tokyo. But this project is more than planting trees. It also includes research, worker program, and regional initiative linked to the forest. Since its completion in 2054, we have continued to manage and monitor forests over time. Sorry. What makes this project distinctive is the method. Before building the forest, we create a full-scale mock-up site on another plot, replicating the same concrete base and growing conditions as the final site. We grew the forest there for 3 years, and transplanted it together with the soil. This allowed us to establish a functioning ecosystem from the very beginning, even in the center of a dense urban district. The impact on the environment and biodiversity is measurable. Research shows that the forest contributes to ecological network formation. It functions as a habitat and a stepping stone, connecting surrounding the green areas and allowing species to move across the city. In other words, this forest is not isolated. It is part of a functioning urban ecosystem. The impact is also measurable in quantitative terms. The forest reduced temperature by 1.7 degrees Celsius inside the site and 0.3 degrees in the surrounding area. By 2021, 208 plant species, 129 insect species, and 30 bird species have been confirmed. This shows that the project creates both ecological and human value in the city. For us, this is more than green space. It is a platform for ecological value, human well-being, and wider connection beyond the city. In other words, it is not only destroying nature, it is also creating new forms of urban value. Our second example focuses on the relationship between cities and regions. We work with Sea Vegetable, a company that regenerates marine ecosystems through seaweed cultivation. At the same time, we bring these products into everyday urban consumption through restaurants in central Tokyo. This means that what we consume in the city can support ecosystems and regional industries. In many cities, everyday consumption is disconnected from nature and production and local communities. By reconnecting urban consumption with regional production and natural ecosystem, cities can support both. Urban consumption can become a driver of regeneration, and by supporting the region, cities also strengthen their own long-term resilience. These examples suggest that the role of cities is changing. They also no longer only places of efficiency, but systems where ecology, society, culture, and economy come together. We present Tokyo as one real urban test. These examples show that cities are sustained through relationships with nature, people, and society. They are part of a living system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Toshi-san. I know something very tough. I've been following them in the last 6 years. And yesterday, in UAV at the university, we invited lots of local administrators coming from Italy, from many different cities, different task forces, and we were hearing from them tangible solutions. Someone was arguing, saying, oh, but who matters when the mayors are inaugurating the brand new park with some trees? But at the end of the game, doing those kind of changes is going to take time. And making this requires lots of administrative processes that we give for granted, but they're not. So the pace that I've seen following in Tokyo is exactly something that we should see in many other kind of examples. And we need sandboxes where we can prototype brand new policies. So I've been in touch with the Catalonian ecosystem for quite a while, and I've seen that they are doing incredible things. And Cynthia is one of the examples, because public administrations decided to start to prototype, start to think in a bioregional way, like Jeremy Rifkin is always telling us, behind the concept of geographical, political borders, but sharing something that is much more important, sharing an ecosystem that is a living ecosystem, as Toshi was saying. Cynthia, I would love you to share some slides about the work you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, as Sara is saying, I will make a bit of a reflection about how the planning has been done. I have my experience is very related with urban planning, and I can say that for a long time we have been planning cities without thinking on the territory that sustain them. It's very rarely, but totally, the urban planning and most of the policies at city level, they do not see the rest of the territory. So this connection, for me, is the root cause of many of today's complex challenges. So we can see the food example. Even though that we are boosting our culture, and for example, no, this picture can show you a typical Spanish meal with the tapas, but the real thing is that most of our food, most of our meals are coming from outside. Just for example, the 50% in Mercabarna comes from Spain. The same happens with the water. The water has another complexity. As you know, we in the Mediterranean, we have the concern about droughts, and we have recently a few of episodes of severe droughts. And precisely, once again, the planning, it's not well fitted. If you see the basins in Catalonia, the internal basins that it's mainly on the administration, it's where most of the urban concentration is allocated, so, and the consumption and the types of use of water. Touristic areas are getting a huge impact. The same happens if we see around energy. We are boosting our electrification, okay, e-mobility, but at the same time, we need to reinforce that energy mix. If it is electric at the city level, we need to connect with which are the sources or the energy that it is enjoying. And last but not least is the materials. I mean, all our building sector, it's depending on extractive ways and methods that are bringing a huge impact, not only for the extractive materials that we're making on land use, changing of land use, but at the same time, the waste management of building construction. So these are some of these connections that at the same time, for sure, we have been, as society, we have been driving these different policies and making the science more closer, but the fact is that emissions are still increasing. And that the fact, when we remember this connection with our territories, when unfortunately happen these type of episodes. And this is a picture of the Dana in Valencia that mainly, of course, is part of the climate change effects that we have. But what happened here, it's also because of a lack of a correct territorial planning and having urban areas in places that you will get a flood, okay? So if we take this as a starting point, if we want that urban ecosystems become regenerative, this only can be by recognizing and restoring their interdependence with the bioregions that they hold. Not only to map and to understand which is the bioregion, but also to connect really our metabolism as a urban ecosystem to them. And this, it's not easy and takes part of a complexity and navigate in between the complexity and uncertainty, because what it is real and what I have seen a lot of in these years of experience is that even though that we have sustainable planning, our net zero cities, so still cities are addressing by separately, not integrated. So when it comes the moment of implementing, now it's a surprise. Now when we enter into the real world, into the complexity, then we see, oh, there's gentrification, oh, there's sanitary emergencies, geopolitics that affect to those processes. So there's a relevant necessity to understand the problem, but from a different point of view. I have been hearing in some of the interventions this day, and it's true. What we need is not, the problem is that we lack of solutions. What we like is the alignment of different perspectives and understand that what civil society sees probably is not the same, the point of the researchers, the public administration, or the private, even investors. But everybody is looking into the same problem. So we need to address properly how we understand the problem and collaborate. And here comes where we are working on and what Sara was making. So from Catalonia, we started working with this frame of SharedAgendas. And now we are boosting from a global perspective. But it's a governance framework. What it aims is to enable system transformation, not to optimize the current system, but to transform it. And this is not easy because we need to learn not only to understand the problem, but to enable how the different agency of the parts that they want to transform can collaborate and address. So one of the first things that we think is not only to gather the different actors that they want to commit to collaborate, but also to help them to focus into the challenge, not only into their own business necessity. Everybody has their own mission. So this is a point of how to tackle, if it is a heat wave, if it is connecting with the territory, but to connect everybody and put the protagonism. We always say the protagonism is the challenge, not all the parts. So this is based basically to have a system impact. And what we do is to base for most of you have heard about the multi-level perspective for transformative policy innovation. So what it says is that we have to take into account these 3 levels. First, to understand that the current system, it's so perfectly well done. I mean, we have done very good because it's very hard to change it. And here becomes not only the policy, the investment, the society, there are multiple dimensions that they are interconnected and they function by themselves. So and there are some of the niches, these place-based, that are happening with different actors that are trying to change, but there's not enough impact to transform the system. So what we are working is how when from the landscape, there are some disruptions that happen, that they change a bit, they create these windows of opportunities to the system that we can take profit. But we only can take profit if the niches are well organized, are well articulated. And here comes what we do from the SharedAgendas perspective. And with the aim not only to organize this collective action, but also to be able to attract and maintain the path with a sustainable investment support. So, for example, as for the urban ecosystems, we have been working on these 4 main objectives, how to think about initiatives that flourish people's health and well-being, restoring the nature, reorganizing the urban metabolism, rebalancing this territorial inequality, because cities and rural areas must be in a more symbiotic, not in a contract, in a more symbiotic path. So these are 6 of the current initiatives that we are directly collaborating. One are for example, and each one of them, they are a coalition of entities that they are aiming to work on that. For example, for the healthy schools, there are the pediatric association with the schools that they are working on this path, the bioeconomy industry in a more regional level, and also the bio-based healthy built environment or water scarcity. So just to give you a glance how these SharedAgendas work is that we have a coalition. For example, in this case, we have architects association with a social entity of housing, but also the bioconstruction association of production of biomaterials. So what we are working together is how to because they're already, for example, Incasol is one of the government departments, we will say, tackling on the housing, especially on housing, but they already have a health guideline, but there's still not enough energy for having some examples to prove. So what we're doing is identifying some of the houses that they can implement with bio-based and have some measurements with the researchers about the impact on health. So once that we have this, and also to connect with the forest management, because at the end, it's not only about having the demand. If we need to encourage bio-based material, we need to push up the market, push up the demand, and establish the complete value chain. So just to summarize, I think that we really need to articulate, I will say, it's not only the funding, but mainly it's the energy that moves and has the possibility to articulate, I will say, this collective intelligence, because once that you find, I really love what Thomas was saying before, when you started with the very first simple example of the coalition, and it has results, this leverage the ambition, and then you go for more. And we have seen some of these shared agendas that, especially, for example, the one in bioeconomy, has been advancing and making step forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Let's say this week is a little bit a shared agenda. I have to welcome many of the friends from C40 that started lending this morning, because tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we're going to work with the network of cities of C40. Here in Venice, we're going to give the Planet Aqua Cities Award to mayors and municipalities that are implementing solutions. So thank you so much, because also we are sharing a mutual agenda, working for the Planet Aqua vision. Now, Merjin, let's jump into the bioregional project of the bioregional weaving lab, and let's say this is the main thing, talking about the bioregional transition that we need to nudge at every level.
Thank you. Thanks, Sara, but also thank you, Toshi and Cynthia. I think the title of this panel is a perfect way to start, because the journey from cities to bioregions is a journey many of us make, and it's a journey I made. I've been spending 17 years in Danone trying to fix the corporate machine from within. And I realized, and it took me some time to realize, that you cannot be fixing the machine from within, because actually the machine is the problem. The fragmentation that we're seeing isn't just a flaw of the system, it's actually the system that we've created because of our flawed view of reality. And so we ultimately have to shift that view. And the way we currently look at it is we silo and we separate agriculture from culture, just like we separate the urban from the peri-urban and from the rural. In the same way that actually even still during this week, I'm hearing us very often separating nature from culture, as if nature is something that is out there, some kind of can that contains everything from stars to rainworms, and it's outside of us. But indeed, like Thomas mentioned that very, very well, this is an arbitrary line. And I find it very paradoxical that actually that arbitrary line became so dominant right here in this city 500 years ago, when the Venetian mirror was industrialized, and when we started to see ourselves in a mirror with this sharp delineation, because until then, we were actually seeing a much more soft delineation of ourselves. And I think in that way, we need to look into the mirror again in a different way. And we've seen art, we've seen different perspectives on the ocean, different perspectives on the universe that actually help us shift our perspectives on the way we look at ourselves. We've seen different maps. And so Toshi just mentioned that what Tokyo Tatemono is doing is not just building concrete assets, but designing interconnected systems. And that requires a different perspective to your business. And the same thing for Cynthia with the shared agenda, to look at governing entire territories and not just the administrative delineation that you're in, which very often is completely arbitrary as well. It has not co-evolved with the geology, it has not co-evolved with the biology, and actually with the culture, because that culture evolved with biology and geology of place. So one of the bridges that I think we have to bridge city and urban is consumption. I co-authored a report for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, Cities and Circular Economy for Food. And we found in that report that by 2050, we estimate that 80% of consumption of food will be happening in cities. And in that way, cities hold the power right now to bankrupt our future. But cities also hold the power when, like you mentioned with the seaweed, we reconnect it, weave it together again with the urban and the peri-urban, which we need for that same food production, to actually become a catalyst of a regenerative economy. So it's not just about food, it's actually also very much about survival. And there was a picture in the previous presentation that I think says it all. The devastating floods in Valencia. We just published with the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, EARA, an analysis on those floods. And one of the things that we found when we computed actually both the cost, but also the adaptive capacity of the watershed around Valencia, if you were to transition it to regenerative agriculture, is that for just 5% of the budget that the Spanish government had to spend on emergency relief, you can transition the entire region to regenerative agriculture. If you transition it to regenerative agriculture, that becomes a ginormous sponge that can capture 212 billion liters of water. Just to put that in perspective, there's a rainfall expectation of about 200 millimeters. The current capacity of that soil is to only absorb about 13%. Shifting this will add at least 50% of the water that will stay in the soil, that will not flood down, also not just destroy the city, but flood all the nutrients that have been created in those fields, flood them into city streets. So the ultimate defense cannot be a concrete levee. It has to be the living bioregions within, like you said, we find ourselves within. So with the bioregional weaving labs, and you can see where we operate currently behind me, we do not believe in isolated and individual projects. We believe that what we actually can support is building an infrastructure, the below the surface mycelium of often and very often relationships that string all the initiatives together into a movement that is place-based, that starts to shift the economy, and that connects to the bioregions around it. And so since 2022, we've been working with 13 what we call weaving teams in 6 bioregions, and we've been connecting over 500 systemic innovators, one of which, I would say one of the leading systemic innovators who sits right next to me and is doing this great work in Cilento, but also in Tokyo. Another example is in the Netherlands, which you see here, which is where I am from, where a team took rejected apples. And they took the apples that were being rejected by supermarkets and turned them actually into premium cider. And by turning them into premium cider, they're actually now planting flower beds that stimulate biodiversity. So something that was previously going to waste is now actually a very healthy business that is building back biodiversity. We're seeing the same thing in France, where a local entrepreneur, an energy entrepreneur, started working with hedgerow conservation. And they've developed a 20-year agreement in which actually the hedgerow conservation is now heating local schools and local public buildings. So the solutions already exist, the farmers are ready, the innovators are there, the urban capital is actually there. It's just waiting to be connected. we believe that we can actually move to 50 of those living labs. And even right now, just to give you a picture, I showed you 6 which are working with the bioregional weaving labs, but 4 weeks ago I was in Romania and we brought together 28 of those living labs just in Europe alone. So this change is already happening. The loom to weave this beautiful tapestry is built and the threads are in place. And so I'm really excited to explore with you and with Cynthia and with Toshi how we can actually do this on the ground together.
Thank you so much. Sincerely speaking, while you were talking, I was thinking about the first call we had with Jeremy Rifkin. The first time we were in a call with you, with Riccardo, saying, we are excited about the planet Aqua. You were telling us, I want the territories at the Climate Week. I want the mayors at the Climate Week. Merjin was saying, the innovations are there, innovators are there, the territories are ready. Can I ask you, from your perspective, what is missing?
First of all, really great. I mean, you got it all down. The problem is, as you know, the climate doesn't give a crap about political boundaries. The floods, the droughts, the heat waves, the wildfires, they affect ecosystems. So we have 2 centuries of the territorial nation state that have absolutely nothing to do with how the ecology of the planet operates. And here's the situation now. This is kind of interesting. Europe only has 1 bioregion, and that's Catalonia and France and the Balearic Islands and Occitania. In China, where we work, we've got 8 now. But here's what's so interesting. The United States, which is so far behind in everything else, we have the 2 great models to which we should use all over the world, which are really impressive. We have the Pacific Northwest and the Pacific Northwest states, Canadian provinces. They've been in a bioregional governance now for many, many years. You cannot mess with it. And then the big one, the Great Lakes. The 8 US states, the 2 Canadian provinces. And that region alone, those Great Lakes are 20% of all the remaining fresh water in the whole planet. So we have some models, and they're the 4th largest economy. So what I'm saying, and this is very clear, last thought. We got a Green Deal. We're moving on a Blue Deal, everybody in this room. Now, when Commissioner Rosewall's here, we got to sit her down, because she's great, and she's really terrific. And we've got to move a bioregional governance across the Committee of the Regions in legislation in the next 6 months. There's no excuse. Other places are doing it. And then we really will deal with water. And then we will deal with how we begin to have a regenerative planet. So you've got all the models. So when the commissioner's here, I love this commissioner. It's now time for her to get together with Peter Van Kemsik and the Green Deal and make a Blue Deal the Green Deal.
I love it. As you know, Riccardo and I, we love to make things, and this is not just an event. This is an opportunity to push forward things that are needed. So thank you so much. And I would say, Merjin, probably a comment on that, because he's basically telling us what we should do as like a mandate. So can you build on that?
No?
No.
No? Let's have the meeting together.
Great stuff.
I was literally sitting there thinking, okay, let's set the meeting up. I mean, my only comment is we find ourselves on these stages so often, and I think sharing these stories and sharing these perspectives is super important. Yet there's always this inner fight of, but we just got to do it. So I think it was said so eloquently and so clearly that there's no need to elaborate on it. There's a need, when we have the right people here in the room, to sit down together. The beauty is we're going to have beautiful food and beautiful surrounding to do it in, much better than in the Netherlands. And then let's make that deal.
That's amazing. I would love to ask to all of you, basically now, from now on, what's going to be the next step? How you think you can contribute to the larger, not only conversation, but the larger action? We started in Tokyo. We said the challenge is huge because we are picking one of the largest cities in the world with lots of issues because, of course, like Italy is a growing and aging population with lots of different things that are very close to our Italian situation. But then you're playing something that can inspire many other cities with similar challenges. What's going to be your contribution to, say, push forward this regenerative movement? And Cynthia, the question is going to be also for you later.
Okay, I can start. So from my point of view, I mean, obviously to join forces. I mean, we are absolutely aiming to put our effort and our energy for everything that can go into a global level, because we understand fully that, as I said, this organizing and articulating for those that are willing to change. I mean, we always say that we are not very with the consensus. We lost a lot of energy trying to convince those that are not believing in this. So it's better to spend the time for those that are really wanted to and to build together. So our next step is to go into this global share agenda. So we'll be glad to be part of the discussion.
And we're very glad that you're going to be with us also tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to start, tomorrow afternoon. First of all, Jeremy is going to present the Planet Aqua Declaration, involving all of us to start to move into this different kind of perspective, seeing the planet as not only our hydrosphere, but something that needs to be renamed under the Planet Aqua thing. Then we're going to start working with all the different municipalities. Let's hear from Tokyo.
Right. What you just saw in the slides, what happened in Tokyo, it's not just an ideal thing that we talked about, something will happen in the future, but it happened. And it's very practical in that sense. And as you know, Tokyo is one of the most dense cities in the world. And the fact that it actually happened in Tokyo, we know that it can be practical, it can be applied in other superpopulated or dense cities, for example, London, New York, or Paris, and etc. So this experiment laboratory, let's say, that happened in Tokyo City, it can be a good example in the mega cities around the world. Secondly, the seaweed, the sea vegetable startup company, the collaboration we saw, and that's a collaboration between the rural area and the urban area, the city and the peripherals. And this is also a good example of working together, the rural and the urban area, and to develop at the same time, not just concentrating in the one place in the city, but the city and also the rural area as well. So in that sense, this can be a very good example for all the cities, many cities around the world.
Last comment to you, and then I will ask to another friend.
Good. We can do a lot. So the first thing is train, support people that are doing this work on the ground. And those are policymakers, but those are equally so the people that pick up the ball in their own community and start working on it. And we can actually do that physically in Cilento. We're going to do that physically in Cilento in September. Future Food Institute has acquired an orphanage to be the home of a school of an academy, of a place where actually this way of working can be educated. I don't think it's about teaching, it's not about putting something in, it's about pulling out something that's already there. The second thing is we do need to make sure that the people that are doing this on the ground get financed. This is often something that gets done mostly through sweat, equity, love, but it does need support. And then finally, tell the story. We are seeing so much dystopian storytelling. We're seeing so much utopian storytelling, but the utopian, we reject it, our brain rejects it. We can never get there. But actually, we need to think about protopian, about the things that are already here that are happening, but they're being covered underneath a wave of Excel files, of numbers, and of the dystopian news. And when people start to see that this is happening everywhere, then we unleash the biggest power that exists on Earth, which is the creativity of 8 billion people that know best what to do in their communities.
That's amazing. And as a closing, I leave the mic to the two of you, because I think that also Hunter has a message.
Well, we've got the guy who may be in the room. I'm sure he's here. There are two constituencies that we need to mobilize. The cities, and thanks to Venice, we need the mayors of all the cities to sign on to this declaration because they're going to be critical. And so we need the cities, and that's absolutely essential. And we need the regions. So is Paul Pullman here? Paul, are you here? Is he back there? Where's Paul? Well, Paul put together, along with Meryl Sefcovic, the Global Conference of Mayors. Paul, if he's here, and Meryl's, who's an old buddy of mine, they're ready to go. They have 12,000 mayors that are already signed up, and they need something to do, okay? So I think that's the first part of the mission. Then we are in deep conversations now with the Global Water Partnership, 2,800. And the chairperson of the steering committee, we've been in conversations with months, they're ready to go. 2,800 water organizations to sign off on this climate agenda. And then we have the Asia Pacific Water Conference, and just by coincidence, my Asia director is the chairperson. It's in Tokyo. It's all there. Now we need to politically come together, all of us, and get those two agendas moved, the mayors and the water organizations. All of them are signing up to the idea of an infrastructure where we make sure that the codes, the regulations, the standards, and the bylaws of every city and every water organization are in a Planet Aqua transformation. Not complicated.
We're trying to do it. Thank you. No, you can make an applause. Yes, you deserve that. And just as a closing of this session, she was challenging us the first night when we started our climate talk. And she told me DOT. So I think that this is a call for each of us.
DOT means do one thing. Every day ask yourself, what's my DOT? What is it that you can do today to make your city work better, to make your bioregion work better? We may be, we the human species, the rest of life on Earth is already facing extinction. We're in the 6th great extinction. We may be facing extinction. We are facing very challenging times. Price of energy is going up, price of food is going up, availability of materials is getting a little sketchy. The only way that we, each one of us, can protect ourselves is by pulling together as a community to build resilient communities. Where does your food come from? Do you know? Where does your energy come from? Do you know? Where does your water come from? We need to know. And the work that is being done in the bioregions, the work that's being done in the cities, we can build resilient, regenerative cities. Thinking about energy, water, housing, healthcare, sanitation, transportation, the things that we need, if we can build these ourselves, and the businesses that supply them. Right now, we are dependent on materials, on energy, on food that comes from thousands of kilometers away. This is daft. When we build this capacity in our own communities, we build economic vitality. We build the kind of places that we want to live in. We know how to do this. You saw examples of it. It's being done around the world. Let's do it. What's your dot?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hunter. So, I thank you all for the work you're doing and because you are an example for many of us. Thank you for joining this community, and we are here all together to join forces because we know, also thanks to you, that the solutions are there.